Let me just make a couple points as a way to start out. First, I'm mostly going to connect guns and race and ancestry and culture. So let me just say that. Number two, I'm not an expert about guns and the Second Amendment and all this kind of thing. I'm not, by any stretch of the imagination. That said, over the years, I've done a lot of reading and a lot of thinking and a lot of debating on the topic with many, many people from lots of different sides of the debate. And I've come to the conclusion, the very smart, what I think is a very intellectually astute conclusion on my part regarding this particular issue, which is the following. I'm not an expert. I will never be an expert, and it is far too complicated for me to ever think that I can begin to understand. And I want to start there because it doesn't matter where you stand on the issue and how clear you think your thoughts might be about the issue. Like all things that are controversial in one way, shape, or form, it is immensely complex, and when you start turning over rocks, it is really, really gray. And it might seem like it's not, that the Second Amendment is actually really clear and it's black and white. It's actually very, very gray. And for the scholars who have studied the Second Amendment, the right to bear arms down through history, and who have written many books on it, far more books than I would ever have time to read in my life, their conclusion almost across the board as well is it is really complex and it is not black and white. So we've always had gun control in the United States. In the early years of the Republic, when the Second Amendment was written, we had a lot of gun control in the United States. And in fact, this is the only thing I'm going to say about it that I think in any way matters, that early on, much or most of the gun control was imposed by localities, towns, boroughs, states, and all these different localities had very different ways of seeing how they should control the use and the spread of guns. And most guns, of course, we're not talking pistols, we're talking rifles, and we're talking single-shot rifles and muskets. But recognizing that the gun is essential, this country is founded on the idea that it's founded on many, many ideas, but one that is key and that is woven through the entire fabric of the United States. For those of you who are not American citizens, you really just have to look at history to understand that part of why this nation was founded in the way that it was to grant autonomy to the people who were living in this geographic territory, the Westerners, the Europeans who were living in this geographic territory. And autonomy, to a great degree, was rooted in controlling the power of the state, meaning the government. And so the idea of the Second Amendment, first and foremost, is an effort to really curtail the power of the government to could at any moment just rise up and just shut people down and take over and take control and pull power away from individual actors. So if you look at the Constitution, it's so many pieces as an attempt to really empower people. And this was an important one. And in part of doing that is gun control. People were writing about and seeking ways to control guns and enacting legislation to control guns. So what we see today with people saying we need more gun control or we need less gun control, these are arguments we've been having for 250 years. It's not going away. It's never going to go away. So the best thing I can do is stay in the gray area. And don't make proclamations like you know something, because God. All right, man, go to the next one. I want to ask some questions to the class. I just want to see where we're at. Who in the class, and what I want you to do is stand up if this applies to you. And by the way, I probably need to, can I just sit on this real fast? I'll sit down too. I'll do it myself. Okay, who has shot a gun at some point in their life? Stand up. Wow. All right, sit down. It's a lot of people, y'all. Who has shot an automatic or semi-automatic rifle? Damn, seriously? Whoa. Damn. All right, sit down. So who currently owns, you yourself, not your family, not your household, currently own yourself, not more than one, just one gun? One gun. And stay standing if you own more than one gun. So how many people have owned just more than one gun? Or own more than one gun? Yeah? Oh, that's not that many of you. Okay. Have a seat. Who has an interest in shooting a gun but has never had the opportunity? Dude, so gun people, look around, man. Help your peoples out. You know what I mean? There's a lot of gun people in here who could take you out shooting. All right. All right, ready? Okay, here we go. This one's more personal. Who has had someone close to them commit suicide with a gun? It's a lot of people. All right, have a seat. Who has had somebody close to them, and you can define close to you however you want, who's close to you, who's been killed by someone using a gun? Look around. It's a lot of people. Okay. Who in here has been wounded by a gun themselves? Anybody? No one? By a gun. Two people. Okay. Who has heard non-celebratory, like New Year's Eve kind of celebration, or the Eagles win the World Series or whatever they won, it's the Super Bowl? Who has heard, no, hang on. Not that the sports team has won something, but who has heard non-celebratory gunfire in their neighborhood? Yo, look around. Damn, man. Okay. Have a seat. Final question. Who has witnessed gun violence? Yeah. Okay. Thanks. It puts us in it puts some things in perspective. This hits close to home. One thing I want to say is that the majority of gun deaths in the United States are suicides, not homicides. And so that's particularly important to keep in mind given the number of people, myself included, who stood. A lot of the proposals, almost every proposal that's right now on the table to deal with assault guns and so on is not, probably not going to even dent that number. So, which is kind of telling. So I want to, I don't want to pull the race card here, okay? So don't get snarky and thinking that I'm trying to get you to feel a certain way or see a certain thing, but I've been around a long time and had a lot of conversations with lots of people, and I just want to have a moment in here. We're not going to talk about it. It's just really for you. And I'm not suggesting that anybody feel a certain way or think a certain thing or whatever, but I do want to get past the political correctness, and I want to get into something else for all of us, right? And I don't want to divide us, but go to the first slide. So here's a young man who was killed, okay? And go to the next slide. He was in Chicago, and here's a young woman who was killed. This is one of the Parkland victims. And, you know, I hear the debate, and I hear people arguing, I hear people talking about why is it that gun violence that hits some communities is really dealt with more openly and more honestly than gun violence hitting other communities. So go to the next slide. So I pull these two slides together, and I thought, I don't know. But people make that argument all the time, that the human life, and it seems to me that what I've seen over the years, really trying to be in the center, not being this way or this way, trying to be really honest and open with what I see. And what I hear, what seems to be true, which is that some lives, the people can feel more about some lives, society as a whole, about some lives more than other lives. Like some lives matter more. And as you just an honest assessment of one's feelings when you look at the photos, to what degree do you feel that deep down in some kind of way? And I'm not just talking to white people here or black people. We're talking to everybody. At what degree do you feel that? Because I just have this suspicion that it's so deep inside of us in this world that we live in that some lives matter more. It seems to be the case. Again, I'm not playing the race card. I'm not trying to get us to see and feel certain things, but God, sometimes just some kind of honest assessment or something, just a willingness to even ask ourselves the question, how is it for me? So go to by the way, go back. The young man on the left, I'm assuming the vast majority of you don't know who they are. He was killed by the police, actually. To do the exercise that I was just telling you, it didn't matter. And of course, she was not, right? But, okay, go to the next slide. I want to ask you a question. I want to ask us this question. In particular, I want to ask people who do not think that we should have gun control. And I would like to ask the question actually to Americans across the country who are against gun control, whether they're members of the NRA or not. The NRA actually only represents a very small number of gun owners, by the way. And what would happen? Just imagine that black Americans or Muslim Americans or Mexican Americans started mobilizing around guns to say, hey, we need to start to defend ourselves. And so since we can own guns, in many states, we can have concealed weapons and we can apply for concealed weapons and it's all good and we can buy assault rifles, that there was a movement in the United States by, I don't know, Black Lives Matter activists, or Brown Lives Matter activists, or representatives of Mexican immigrants, or the Muslim American organizations. So Muslims around the United States started saying, hey, listen, those of us who are American citizens, we really need to think about protecting ourselves. And so what we'd like to do, we're starting an organization so that every Muslim family has at least one assault rifle, but preferably 2 or 3 in their homes with lots of ammunition. Make sure you have a lot of ammunition because we need to make sure we protect ourselves. And so the question I have, again, an honest assessment of this issue. What would happen in the United States? What do you think would happen? And then imagine seeing, in an open carry state, 20 or 30 or 50 or 100 black men walking down the street with their assault rifles strapped around their shoulders. What would happen? What would we feel? How would that work out? Who would be pushing for gun control? What would they be saying? What would the NRA say? What kind of commercials would the NRA put out in support of black Americans who are pushing to own assault rifles? This movement, every black household should own at least 2 assault rifles. Every Muslim household should own at least 2 assault rifles. Mexican immigrants, you should have 3 of them. What would the NRA say about that? Because it's their right. What would we say? As a society, as an honest assessment, that's a question to talk about in your discussion groups. I don't have the answer. I think I know what a lot of people would say. I think I have the idea, I live with the idea that a lot of people would start to shift their focus a little bit on gun control, at least a little bit. Some people, the purists, would be like, rock on, more members, more support, more people, more guns, more whatever. This is really important. This is great. But I don't know how many. I don't know. We've had a few examples in the United States. A few. There's more than a few, but considerably less than white people, of black and brown people going on a shooting rampage with assault rifles. But mostly it's white people. That may just be because it's mostly white people that own them. But I don't know. At least up till now, it seems to me that if you see a black man or a brown man or woman with an assault rifle, probably the data would tell you you should be less afraid than if you see a white man with an assault rifle or a white woman. That's what the data would tell you. But my gut feeling says that most people wouldn't be. And these are the kinds of questions that we have to ask ourselves, right? You can talk about it in your discussion group. I'm not going to open it up because my job today is just to provoke us with some questions for thought. So, I don't know. I love that guy's face right there. He's like, yeah, man, I got it. Okay, next slide. So here, let me just give you one quick thing. These are the Black Panthers on the steps of the state capitol in California back in 1967. And the Black Panthers was an organization that emerged in the black community because of police violence, police repression, and because the government across the board in post-civil rights United States was absolutely unwilling, and it's pretty clear, all you got to do is go back and study, was really unwilling to grant equal rights to black people across the board. And the Black Panthers was an organization that started from the bottom up, educating, feeding, providing social services in poor black communities where services were needed and where governments were not providing them. So it emerged as a really cool organization. They also had a wing of the Black Panthers that said, hey, we can take advantage of open carry. And we also need to protect ourselves because the police aren't really protecting us. In fact, they're going after us. And so we'll take advantage of this. So this is a bunch of men on the steps of the Capitol building in California. Go to the next slide. Here they are again. Imagine walking up to the steps of the Capitol building and seeing these two gentlemen, that dude right there with his. And so this guy is reading the proclamation to them that says, yes, you are correct. According to the laws of the state of California, you are legally allowed to openly carry these guns on the steps of the Capitol building. Shortly thereafter, the state of California, under Ronald Reagan, by the way, future president of the United States, passed some of the strictest gun laws in the U.S. And most every observer at a fundamental level says even though the gun laws applied to everybody, they emerged because of these guys and others like them right here. That's just one tiny example in history, but I don't think I have to go back in history to look around and imagine what might happen today. Next one, man. Just a couple things I want to point out. Again, this is for your groups because I'm actually got something I want to do in a little bit. Violent crime in the U.S. is at a 30-year low. 70% of Americans think that crime is rising. It's not surprising, right? This is one of these things where you have to really have an honest and open assessment of things and not let our emotions sort of get us carried away. Next slide. Let me show you this. Watching TV distorts our reality. It's no wonder that people think we're a much more violent society than we are. You're really not likely, nobody's likely to be the victim of a violent crime. And certainly if you don't live in a neighborhood with a good deal of violence. Here's top crimes on television, and here's top crimes in daily life. None of them are up here, you will notice. We're really not a very violent society, and we are not a very violent world. And the idea, one of the ideas of needing guns and wanting guns that many people have is because I want a gun to protect myself. And I want to tell you that's fine, and that makes sense. And by the way, I grew up with guns, so I'm really comfortable with guns. My brother owns about, 20 or 30 or 100 of them. I have no idea how many. I'm really good shooting a gun. I'm very accurate. I'm very comfortable with guns. But, look at that. It's just kind of... Next slide. Here's something that our president tweeted out. Once again, I'm saying this as a point of we need to be honest, and we need to be clear, and we need to not provoke fear, because provoking fear actually stokes the fire, and when we stoke the fire, we create divisions between us. So here's this organization, which is not an organization, Crime Statistics Bureau. It might have been the Russians that put this together. And there is no, and you should know it's not real because it says San Francisco. I don't think there's this is a very so-called really uber conservative, what we'd identify as conservative, anti-leftist, anti-liberal chart here, and I don't think any of those people live in San Francisco anywhere. So 2015, blacks killed by the police, killed by whites. 2% of blacks who died were killed by whites versus 97% killed by other blacks. Whites killed by blacks. 81% of all whites who were killed by blacks. Killed by whites, only 16%. Whites killed by police, 3%. Blacks killed by police, 1%. Okay? I don't know what that actually means. I'm not really sure what those mean. Blacks mean that 1% of the black population is killed by police? I have no idea. Okay? So our president tweets this out. I'm going to say immensely irresponsible because it's stoking fear. So here are the actual data, by the way. So blacks killed by whites, 8% of all blacks killed by whites. Blacks killed by other blacks, 90% of black people who were killed with a gun were killed by other black people. Whites, of all white people who were killed by guns, 15% were killed by black people, 82%, look at that, instead of 16%, right? It's like whites are, 81% of all whites who died by guns are killed by what this thing is saying, were killed by black people, meaning that if you see a black person, be afraid. White people, be afraid. They will come after you. When in fact, the number is 15%. And it's just really, really irresponsible for anyone to put these kinds of data up. My guess is Trump, he probably didn't even read the thing, and he just tweets stuff, so it's fine. But immensely irresponsible. Most people who die by guns from people around them, not by people they don't know. So the idea of needing guns and wanting guns and protection, well, go back a couple slides. If you're watching a lot of news, then you have the idea that you really need to protect yourself. And we live in a violent world, we live in a violent society. At any moment you could be attacked, you could be killed. So go out and protect yourself at all costs. In fact, the truth is we're not a very violent society. The vast majority of Americans, not true of everybody, but the vast majority of Americans are never going to be touched by violence themselves personally. And so when we create this idea that we are very violent, and then go forward, and then we bring race into it, and we carve these divisions like, hey, watch out for the violent black people. Essentially, this is a message to white people. Watch out for violent black people. They are the ones who are killing you. It's very much a problem. It works against certainly what we're trying to do in here, was to see all the interconnectivity. Okay. And by the way, it's rare to be killed by someone who you don't know. Did I say that already? Can I say that again? It is rare to be attacked or killed or some way victimized by somebody, victimized physically, aggressively, violently by somebody you don't know. So keep that in mind as we move forward and you have your conversations in your groups. All right, next slide. So I want to talk about something that I'm going to challenge. We have enough time. I wonder if, how about if we do this? Are there a couple chairs in the back? Can I get 2 chairs, bro? Or do we have 2 there? Hey, how many of you have parents who are police officers? Who has a parent who's a police officer? Anybody? Wait, one? Who is it, your dad or your mom? Both of them? Dude, really? Do you feel like coming down the front? Do you want to come down? Have you been down yet? All right. Do you want to come down? All right. And who is really active in the anti-violent, like the Black Lives Matter movement, who really work, addressing issues of police violence against civilians? Who feels really strongly about that? What's your name? Ruby. Ruby? Yeah. Dude. Addressing violence against the black and brown community. Any activists? Is anyone an activist in here? Dude, where's the black dude who sits right there in the back row? What about him? He's like a radical. Are you here? He's not there. Maybe he's somewhere else. Wait, who else? Come on, anybody? Dude, nobody? We don't have any black or brown people in here that feel some kind of way? Anybody? Who really feel they're kind of involved in BLM or something? Dude. Oh my God. Conrad. All right. So both your parents are police officers?
Well, my mom's secretary for the police department.
Wait, hang on. Use that one.
My mom's secretary for LAPD, and then my stepdad's a retired narcotics.
Retired narcotics? Mm-hmm. In LA? You're from LA?
Mm-hmm.
Hence the UCLA
yeah.
sweatshirt. Dude, don't put anything past me, pal. And your dad was in narcotics. How many years?
I believe.
Wait, hold the mic close.
I want to say 29. Actually, no, 30.
Was he? Do you have any stories? Like, was he shot? How about him? Has he had? He must have 29 years.
He tells me a lot about. He's definitely shot at. He's been to like the crime scenes and seen like anything. He's seen everything.
So were you when you think about him as a narcotics detective? Mm-hmm. Dude, does that mean like you could never smoke weed in the house and stuff?
I've definitely rebelled, but
oh, you did rebel.
Ways, yeah, but
wait, I get the answer underneath your answer. I hear your answer.
Yeah.
Okay. And no, but what was it like though to have a narcotics detective in the house as a teenager? Hold the mic close.
Sorry, definitely. I've grown up. I was very like conservative, and like they've kind of like I wasn't allowed to do a lot of stuff, and like they always like told me and my siblings about like all the drugs and what's out there. Like don't drink, if like someone gives you this, say no. Like always say no, but. Yeah.
And so was it like when your dad would go off to work and stuff, or other police officers? Because you must have known a lot of police officers. Mm-hmm. It's like a fear?
No, it's more like protection, I guess.
You felt protected.
Yeah.
Not a fear of their lives.
Mm-hmm.
So you didn't have that so much. And bro, okay, this is Conrad Ruby.
Nice to meet you.
Dude, so when I say Black Lives Matter, what do you... When you say you feel pretty strongly about it, what do you mean? Say something about that.
I feel as though America as a whole, white Americans don't appreciate the Black Lives Matter movement because they feel as though we're also trying to separate black lives from white lives, when in reality we're just trying to bring light to police brutality and basically like the all-around unfairness in America.
So when you hear him use the word police brutality, what do you hear? Are you white, by the way?
I'm Irish and Mexican.
Initially Mexican? Is your stepfather Mexican or white?
No, he's Italian.
Italian? Mm-hmm. Italian narcotics detective. Somehow that's just like, okay. It's perfect. You know what I mean? Okay. When you hear him say, what was the...
Police brutality.
Police brutality. What do you hear?
If I can clarify, I mean...
No. Just hold that. Okay. Don't clarify. What do you hear?
I just hear like unwrongful doing of like police officers.
Yeah, but like how do you feel that? Like he says police brutality, man. We're going to step up against police brutality.
I don't like it. Like I don't like the word necessarily. I feel like it's like what's the word, like a bad, I don't know.
Mm-hmm. So you feel some kind of way about it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. What do you mean by police brutality?
I guess the ratio of black people unfairly shot by police and unfairly killed, and the light that's shed on it, or the kind of light and the kind of information the public receives from it, and the injustice that afterwards takes place in like courts. You know, like how the police officers might not be charged or might not go to jail.
So that's a perception that a lot of people have. The police, there's the blue wall of silence, right? You know that, yeah. Right? What do you think about that? The blue wall of silence. The cops are going to protect each other, man. That's just kind of how it is.
I don't know. I feel like it's very...
By the way, I'm not asking you to speak on behalf of all police, right? I'm asking you just to speak on behalf of you. Like, how do you think about this idea that is out there in the world that police, in the end, when they do something wrong, they will protect each other. They're going to build a wall around each other so that they don't get prosecuted, they don't get, they protect each other.
I mean, I feel like in a lot of circumstances, I do believe that, but like, sorry, I don't know. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. Under some circumstances, yep, but
I don't know. I feel like
yeah. Your mind just emptied? All right, okay, cool. Let's come back. Let me keep going. We'll come back to it, okay? Here's the thing is, what I want to do here is, dude, what do you think about the blue wall of silence? Do you all understand what I'm talking about? The blue wall of silence? Basically, the idea is this. It's like any job, right? Like a wall of silence that, it's a difficult job, and, it's like when you're in the military, or when you're in some job where you really, at some level, feel like you are, at some level, putting yourself on the line, and other people around you are doing it, and it's kind of like a sisterhood or a brotherhood. And if you have to protect the people around you, because society will come after them. And if they do one little thing wrong and everyone's watching the police, just like everyone's watching, criminals and whatever. It's like if they do something wrong and then society comes after them, well, they got to protect each other, because they're the ones that are really putting themselves on the line. And so the blue wall of silence is this idea that no matter what, we're going to protect our brothers and sisters who are wearing blue. The blue police uniform, and that's the blue wall of silence.
I feel as though this blue wall of silence, them protecting each other is not. They signed up to protect society. So if their partner does something wrong, or they wrongfully kill somebody, they're being counterproductive to their role in society. They're hiding the fact that they know what happened.
So they should actually step forward, really, as part of society.
As crime stoppers to stop the crime, yeah.
Okay, so listen, let me show you some data here. First, I'm going to talk about the police, okay? And then I'm going to talk about BLM work. So go to the first slide. Go past these. I don't need these. Yeah, go one more. I'm going to come back to that one, by the way. So this is from an officer memorial down. And so I want to put this all in perspective. So I'm going to kind of talk about police first. Honoring officers killed in 2016. This is a website. It's up. It's running. I'm only doing 2016. But it is a website that people put together to honor all of the police officers who were killed. Not wounded. There are many more who were wounded, but who are killed in 2016, okay? Officers killed. Okay, got it? So now go to the next slide. 144 police officers were killed in the line of duty in 2016. This is directly from the website, okay? So that's a lot of people, right? It's a lot of people. So let's look at where they're from. So 10 from heart attacks, 44 vehicle accidents, 3 from 911 related illness, 67 from gunshot assault and stabbing, 12 from vehicular assault, which is like someone trying to run over them or actually running over them with the car, and 8 from other causes. So what we have then, go to the next slide, is of 900,000 sworn law enforcement officers in the U.S., 89 intentional deaths in 2016. So if you go back one more. So officers killed, it's not officers killed. So right away, what we have is where everybody is politicizing issues. Everyone wants to take their issue and put it out front. The liberals do it on one side, conservatives do it on the other, police do it on one side, the people who are critiquing the police do it on the other side. Everyone's like kind of politicizing, you know what I mean? This is not officers killed. Going forward, heart attack, one more, go ahead. Heart attacks is not officers being killed, it's officers dying in the line of duty. So 10 officers had a heart attack while they were working as police officers. 44 vehicular accidents. Okay, got it? So the politicization, what I want to talk about right now is politicization. How we politicize everything. We politicize gun violence. We politicize whatever it is. We make it political. And then we cherry pick, as you remember with the immigration issue, right? Nonetheless, go forward. One more. 89 intentional deaths. That's basically 10 out of 100,000. That's a lot. That's a lot. It's a dangerous occupation. It's more dangerous to be a roofer, right? Because more roofers die in the line of duty. But there aren't that many roofers, and roofers aren't out protecting other people. So it's a dangerous occupation. That's when I asked you. It's like when your stepfather would go off to work, right? Do you feel any fear?
I mean, before, like, when I was younger, when, like, he used to go out to work, like, I wouldn't really know, you know? But now, like, I do, like, I have other friends that have, because, like, some, like, their dads, like, are on, like, patrol, and, like, you don't know, like, they don't know if, like, one day if, like, they'll get shot, and, like, who knows what'll happen, you know? So it's kind of...
So intentional deaths, it's like basically 10 out of 100,000, which is not, the chances aren't really good. That's, you know, if you look at Beaver Stadium, there's 10 people in Beaver Stadium, but that's still, in any given year, that's still a lot of people, right? It's much higher likelihood than me being killed in the line of duty in my work, right? Which isn't a duty, but in my work, it's not going to happen, so. But I bring this up because now we're going to talk about the other side. Who police kill. And I bring this up because I'm also going to critique the people who argue that police are killing everybody. In order to do that, I feel like, okay, well, let me just be clear about what is and what isn't, in all fairness. Okay, bro. Wait, what do you think about that? 89 police experienced intentional deaths in 2016, meaning people, in their efforts to protect and serve, 89, almost 90 people were killed doing that. What do you think about that?
I feel as though being a police officer is a dangerous job, and it's definitely not easy protecting the lives of everybody in a society. So they're definitely very valiant, and I'd like to believe that most officers are good officers.
Are good officers. Yeah, I think that's. Would you say that?
Yeah.
What would your stepfather say? Don't say.
I think he would say the same thing.
He'd say that most are?
Most, yeah.
Yeah, I would
feel
say
like
most are.
some kind of...
Some bad cops?
Yeah.
Dude, the vast majority, I'm sure most are. I've taught so many, I know so many police at this point. Yeah, I don't have any question about that. Okay, go to the next one. Okay. There, by the way, those are some numbers. It's a lot of people over that period of time. People with a family and each one doing. Okay. Anyway, one more. And look at this. And the killers, the people who killed the police in that time, 52% of the people who killed police officers were white, 41% were black. The black population is only 13% of the population. So as we move forward, that's a conversation we also need to have. Why is that number so high? Why is it so high? And that's an issue. That's something that that black activists as well need to talk about and do talk about. They don't talk about it. You may not hear black people talking about that, why that number is so damn high. But it's being talked about a lot in the community, but it needs to be on the table because that's really high. It's unbelievably high. When it's only, black people are only 13% or 12.5 to 13. Okay, go to the next slide. Okay, so here's a protest. This is, I think, was a photo from Ferguson, Missouri, after I think it's the killing of Michael Brown, one of the protests in Ferguson. So police must stop killing us, okay? So think about that. This is what we see. This is the vision, right? You know, you should sit over here, by the way. If you could pull your chair over here, you can see this better. Yeah. Okay, ready? Next slide. How many people were killed by police in 2016 in the United States? Don't hit it. How many were killed by police in 2016? How many people? Talk to the person next to you. Come up with a number. What do you think? How many people? What do you all think? Not percentage, absolute numbers. How many were killed by police of all ancestries?
What were you going to say? No, I don't know. No, you don't know. What did you say? What did you say? I don't know.
Okay, you have your numbers? Bro, what'd you say? 170. What'd you say? What'd you say, bro? Bro, what'd you come up with?
I'd probably say like 750.
750. What'd you say? 500. What'd you say? How much? 100? Dude, what'd you guys say? What'd you say, dude? Motherfucker, talk about it right now. We'll wait while you talk about it. Do 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 2,000. All right, man. That's what she said. You said a couple thousand. You said a couple hundred. All right, next slide. 963. Okay? 2016. So here. And here's my question. How many of the 963 were black? 963. How many were black? Go ahead. Dude, talk to the person next to you. How many were black? 963. Not percentage-wise, actual numbers. Would you go with 600? How much?
200 or 300.
200 or 300? 411? Dude, you're getting precise, man. How about you two? 704. All right, so here it is. Go ahead. So these are the numbers. The percentage here is the percentage in the population. So I'm not running I don't know what the number is, 233. I don't know what that is in terms of the population. Can someone just quickly, my friend over here, you have a calculator out. Right there. Can you run that percentage right there? 233 divided by 963. It's going to be like 25%, more or less. 24%? All right, man, 24%. So, whereas black people represent 12% of the population, 24% of people who are killed by the police. So it's a little higher. You said, what did you say? Like 250. You said maybe 100. Some people said 700. Some people said 400. So 233. Okay. Certainly, the idea, it's a lot of people. Either way, 963 people is a lot of people be killed by the police in a year. It's a lot of people. Okay? So, next slide. Of the 963, look at these numbers here. Look at that. So, here's the deal. When we talk about police killing people, go back to the first slide. Officer down, memorial page. Number of police officers killed in the line of duty. Killed in the line of duty. When in fact, a full 30 to 40% of them were, 40% probably, were not killed in the line of duty. They died in the line of duty. In fairness to not bringing politics into the issue, died in the line of duty is different than killed in the line of duty. Well, look here. Of the 963 people killed by the police, over 500 of them, well over half of them, had a gun. Okay? So when you think killed by the police, if I just ran this number, 963 people killed by the police, and I said nothing else, most of you would assume they were unarmed, because this is how we operate. But the vast majority, look, had a knife, were in a vehicle, had a toy weapon that probably is like a replica weapon that looks exactly like a weapon. And so the police don't, if you point a toy weapon at a police officer and it looks exactly like a real weapon, the police officer doesn't know. And so 70 had some other instrument, could be an axe, could be a machete, could be any number of things, a club going after the police officer. 48 were confirmed unarmed. 69 they're pretty certain were not unarmed, but just had some other weapon. They don't know what it is. 48 unarmed, okay? So here's the question. Of the black people killed by the police, how many were unarmed? 233 in 2016. How many were unarmed? What do you think? 233. How many were unarmed? What do you think, bro? What do you think?
195.
No, 233. There are only 40. Can you go? 48 were unarmed. Of all the people killed by the police, 48 were unarmed. 233 black people killed by the police. How many were unarmed? This is a number that matters. So there are a lot of things. It's not just killing people. People experience lots of things from the police. Black and brown people in particular, it's not just being killed, it's being harassed, being victimized in different ways, being attacked by the police. You can be victimized and attacked by the police in lots of different ways and not be killed. So it's not just a matter of being killed. And in fairness, the protests, Black Lives Matter emerges, a lot of the movements against the police and against police violence emerge as a result of the number of black and brown people who are unarmed, who are killed by the police. This is the energy, this is the motivation around those movements and around the protests. Dudes. Yo, I want to say something here really fast. If you haven't caught on right now, I'm a white dude who is critiquing the Black Lives Matter movement in this way. I'm basically calling the entire movement to task, say, look, in fairness to the world, if you're going to protest about police violence and police killing her stepfather, if you're going to protest, then you need to talk accurately about the data. Because what we're talking about, go forward, 233 black people killed by police in 2016 out of a population of 39 million. How many unarmed? 16. So when this guy is holding this sign, and there are hundreds upon hundreds of people like him holding a sign, going down the street, protesting about police violence, which is fair. One unarmed person is one too many. It doesn't matter. One is one too many. And in fairness, walking down the street, what's the answer to his question? Am I next? What's the answer to his question? What's the answer to his question? Am I next?
Probably not.
Probably not. Probably not. And especially if you are unarmed and you're not doing anything, the chances of you being killed, even though if you are killed, it is and it will be and it should be the lead story on the evening news, but it's probably not going to be you. That's not the story. It's probably not. 22 people. When you ask Americans how many unarmed black people have been shot by the police in any given year, it's like we're in the hundreds. People will say thousands. I've asked somebody that question of coming together and really dealing with these issues. Like, we have to have honest and open conversations about things. So, for example, an honest and open conversation about the the blue line, the wall, right? The blue wall of silence, and an honest and open conversation about this. And what do you think about the fact that, like, yeah, probably not? Like, what do you think about that, bro?
Regardless of the low number, I feel as though the movement is not without cause, clearly, and I don't think it's a very silly movement, as many people would, well, not many people, but as some people would like to put it, regardless of the number.
Dude, I agree with you. I totally agree with you. And why is it an important movement? Why? Like, in your words, in your idea. You're from New York, right? Mm-hmm. So why is it important from your estimation?
Well, taking aside the amount of black people that are killed by the police, there is still a large amount. Even though the movement is specifically for, the police brutality, there is still a large amount of blacks who are harassed by the police in their communities, specifically in impoverished black communities, daily.
Yeah, totally, man. And like in LA recently, the big case of the detectives who were planting drugs on people, and people are going away to prison for like 20 years. Did your dad know some of those people? That was like a major case, right? Your stepfather? Yeah. Dude, I'm with you on that. Look, there's a way in which, can you go back to the Zach Hammond slide really fast? Dudes, black people have historically in the United States in some ways been like a canary in the coal mine. You just said this in a way, right? Do you know what a canary in the coal mine is? Do people... Look, because of high levels of CO2 in mines when you go underground, it was very common in the past, not today, but because we have different detections, but in the past to take a canary. A canary is a little tiny bird. If there's CO2, if there are high levels of CO2, carbon dioxide, the canary takes it in and the canary dies. It's odorless. And if the canary dies, then the miners know, like, hey, this is really dangerous down here. We have to get out. And so black people in the United States and black activists, in a way, are the canaries in the coal mine. To say, look, we've created a police state here, and we've given the police a lot of power. And there is this thing where you give them too much power, and they will use that power, and they will ultimately abuse the power, and they're doing it to us. And we've seen it in our neighborhoods. And our neighborhoods become violent in part because, yeah, there's violence around us, but also violence from the police, and a lot of violence from the police, right? And so therefore, we're going to step out, and we're going to step forward, and we're going to talk about this, especially the idea of police in like this kind of paramilitary police state that we're creating with the help, by the way, of the NRA. But that's neither here nor there. So here's an example. Most of you probably never heard of this guy, Zachary Hammond, killed by the police for a marijuana bust, dude. Okay. California, we're in a different world here, right? Narcotics. Marijuana. He was selling some young girl quarter bag of, it was an eighth, I think, of marijuana. It was a set-up drug buy. I mean, marijuana, dudes. Seriously? And so the police set him up, and then when the undercover cop pulled up, you can watch the video on your cell phone. It's really disturbing. The cop pulls up and pulls his gun out, and he's like, get out of the car. And this guy, Zach Hammond, throws his car in reverse because he doesn't know who this guy is. And he takes off, and the cop shoots him for an eighth ounce of weed. And he kills him. And those are his parents. And this is the lawyer there. And the parents, the first people that reached out to his parents, to his family, and I know this because I know people who are on the inside of this, right? The first people that reached out to the family was, who do you think it was? Black Lives Matter activists, man. And they called up and they said, hey, we're there. You name the moment, we'll send busloads of people down to your town this weekend, whenever it is, and we're ready to, we're going to go to bat for you because we know what you're going through, and we got it, and we are there for you. And there were black people, BLM people from all over the U.S. calling in and going like, yeah, okay, we're ready. We're ready to go. We're ready to go. But white people, bless our hearts. We believe in justice, and we believe in the system. Some people in the United States have learned that, you know what, the system is probably not going to work for you. So you need to take matters into your own hands. But white people have grown up creating a system where they, by and large, believe the system's going to work for us. It's in our favor. Look, the police were wrong. They murdered our son. We will let the justice system play itself out, and the police, the cop who did this, is going to go to jail because it's so wrong. He literally, in cold blood, murdered our son. So no, we don't need any help. We don't need any activists coming in. Don't bring your buses in. We're not going to have any major protests. And the only protests were really organized by the Black Lives Matter folks who said, well, we're going to do it anyway, speaking out on his behalf. And so there's a way in which the movement itself, and not, so your stepfather, right? But your stepfather represents a larger institution that has to be held in check. Because if you don't hold it in check, it's like me. You got to hold me in check somehow. Because otherwise, why would if I don't have anyone looking over my shoulder, why should I even go to class? Like, I don't care, whatever. Why should I care? I don't have to do anything. I'll still get my paycheck and life is good. So you always hold people in check. And BLM is a movement to do that. And we need to be honest. Dude, who has a question? Who has a question? Who has a comment or a question? Who has a comment or a question? Do you want to say anything, by the way? Do you have anything you want to add? Thanks for coming up here, by the way. You too, bro. Do you have anything you want to add?
The only thing that I want to add, it doesn't have anything to do in particular to Black Lives Matter or even this topic, but I just feel as though a lot of, specifically the white Americans in this class, should not just keep the information that our professor teaches us in their heads. I feel as though you should share it with your families and your friends because he gives us a lot of good information and a lot of realistic information also.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, that's fair. And let me throw that out on with this stuff here that I'm talking about. Next time someone's talking about, like I hear black people talking about the genocide of black Americans. It's like, dude, the police genocide of black Americans, come on, man. Don't use that term here. In 2016, we're talking 22 unarmed people. That's not a genocide. You can't divide the world up like that. Yes, who has a question? Yes.
I just had a question about the data that you used from the Washington Post.
Oh yeah, right.
It said 70 people were killed with an other instrument. Do you think other instrument includes things like pipes or tasers or actual weapons?
So it's axes, pipes, like metal pipes, baseball bats, clubs, and machetes, right? Well, those were like the five, as I remember, the five main things. And the Washington Post did a really good, they spent a lot of money and a lot of time tracking down these data. They're not 100% accurate, but they're the most accurate data we have on police killings.
So those are only other weapons? Because like Stephen Clark just got killed and he had a cell phone, so I didn't know if that would count as an instrument. No, because I think that counts as unarmed.
No, that wouldn't count as a weapon. He's unarmed.
Okay, thanks.
And the gentleman from Baton Rouge, just before class, the police in Baton Rouge are deciding they're not going to prosecute them for killing him. I mean, he had a gun in his pocket, by the way, but somebody else. Who else? Who has a question?
I more so have a comment.
Yeah, go ahead.
So though the majority within the United States, the majority of those who are killed by police are armed, and then you look at the statistic, you said 22 black individuals were unarmed, correct?
Uh-huh.
There is within that, the people who are killed by police, there's the implicit bias that goes with it. So like you have your explicit versus your implicit. The implicit bias and the overt attitudes surrounding black individuals as well as individuals of color make the police more likely to inflict this harm, to inflict this violence upon these individuals.
To arrest, to look for, to go after.
Correct.
To harm in any way, all the implicit bias stuff, which I'll talk about in a couple weeks, but Yeah, absolutely.
And
That's
that could
that's the racism.
Right, and that could be reason as to why 41% of black individuals, kill police. Part of it is because of just simply the interaction between people of color, black people, as well as police officers. The interaction alone is going to create or provoke this racism and this bias.
Yeah, so one thing that we know for sure when we look at that, we see it's a provocation, right? And many times, so the qualitative numbers that I've seen, in all fairness to that number. And so the number you're responding to is all the police who were killed, right? And it doesn't say what race the police are, so do not assume they're white.
No, I understand.
No, I know you're not, but so of all the police that were killed, 41% killed by black people, right? But look, that's not like just some black people just showed up and killed somebody. There's a provocation. And so the provocation is likely to have started by the police as it is by anybody else. And so if the police start ramping up the conflict, right, the provocation, then they're also starting the chain of events that would lead another police officer to be killed. Which is what you're saying, and I agree with you.
Also, one more thing I wanted to point out, and that statistic, it was saying like unarmed, someone with a gun, someone with et cetera. There was a percentage that had like a toy.
Yeah, toy guns.
A toy gun. Why isn't that considered in the calculation for the unarmed?
Yeah, because
a toy gun is not.
No, it is, because look, there are toy guns now, and weapons, including weapons that are absolutely realistic, and we have gun experts even looking at them, holding them out, that can't even tell the difference. So it says toy, it really should say fake gun. It's not like a squirt gun, it's lime green.
One, it says toy weapon, not toy gun.
I know,
so.
it should say fake weapon, right? It really should say that, because the Washington Post was pretty clear that not a single one of those is like the lime green squirt gun that you and I played with as a little kid. These are weapons that are replica weapons that look exactly like a real gun. And a police officer from a certain distance doesn't know if it's real or fake.
That's fair. I understand that.
Yeah. Dude. Wait, do you have a question?
Question, statement. I think the idea of the canary in the coal mine.
Wait, hang on. Listen up.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I think the canary in the coal mine metaphor is a good reason. I mean, in terms of Black Lives Matter, that's the only form of attention that the general media is getting in terms of like how, police and, people of color are interacting. But there's a lot more in terms of like discrimination and bias from police to people of color that is not as much as addressed. There's only, 22 African Americans but there's countless thousands who are being. So I think that's also something to understand. Like, yes, this is the canary, but this is the tip of the iceberg that is the focal point that people are willing to listen to.
Exactly.
But not the real stuff. Like everyday people are being biased and discriminated by. So
being hassled by the police.
Exactly.
Dude, agreed. Yo, hang on, man. Wait, dude. Am I in fucking drinks? Is it a question? Yeah. Dude, we have one. Can we just get one final question in here before? Oh, you're gonna have to ask after class. Yo, go ahead, bro.
How do you set up a system for police accountability when the prosecutors going after those bad officers are the same prosecutors who have to work alongside police?
Dude. I don't know, dude. I don't know. All right. Hey, thanks for coming up, y'all. All right, we'll see you on Thursday.